I don't care what nobody tells me. Eze is a very good footballer. He's got the X factor. He's a star man. And for me, build the team around him and Bukayo Saka. We'll get on to Saka. I know we've got to take time with Saka, but I don't care if Saka is half fit. Obviously, I do. But a half fit Saka, anything I've seen with how poor, quote unquote, Saka's been this season, that's the best option on the right hand side. If you're not, for me, going to play Max Dowman. But back to Eze, people. I want to share my screen with you, lot, people. Yeah, away from the obvious with Eze and what we saw yesterday, well, 2 days ago against Newcastle United. Yeah, look at this baby face killer, man. This how tells you how long I've been on YouTube. 5 years ago. Yeah, I don't want to bring back PTSD or anything, but just look at the title. Investing 15 million in Eze is a better investment than signing William, surely. Now, I know William was signed for free with the wages and the horror story that was. Ergo, probably shouldn't be signing players from Chelsea unless they're Cole Palmers, Caicedos, etc. You were probably going to shop at Chelsea anyway. So I've always said to you, look, I've got to the point. I know it's all banter, but I've stopped dissing Chelsea players because we end up buying them in it. Like I diss Sterling as much as I like him, but once you throw on the pagan shirt, is what it is. But I diss Sterling. We went and got Sterling on a loan deal. I diss Kepa. We obviously brought Kepa in, and Humble Pie served me in the final. I diss Kai, and I actually like Kai, but we all know the struggles. And I'm missing somebody else out. I used to diss Noni Madueke as well, people. I call him Booker T and all of these things in my group chat, people. It's nothing personal to the players. It's just Chelsea fans slagging off Arsenal, I'm slagging them back. We signed them. I think we're gonna end up signing Pedro Neto. Potentially might even go for Garnacho. So as I said, I'm not gonna diss Chelsea players in it, but I will say this: Cole Palmer's not that good. Reece James ain't that good. Caicedo's rubbish. Berta, work some magic. But look what I'm seeing there. And I understand there has to be development. Sometimes you need to wait for these players to be seasoned, and then they arrive at the big stage, the Arsenals, etc., etc. But that tells you how much of a big fan I am of Eze. And I feel the Championship is an underrated market, man. You look at Adam Wharton when he was at Blackburn. You look at Elise when he was at Reading. Obviously, Eze, you know, I know it's not the same, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Harry Kane, Ivan Toney, Semenyo. There's players that have been like had to earn their chops, go through the leagues, whether they've been on loans or whatever, and then they arrive here. So I do think stars come from anywhere. Whether you sign them for big money, whether you bring them from abroad for big money, whether they're unknown entities and they explode on the scene, or you get to a stage like Declan Rice, you're dropping 105 million. Big up Declan, but this just tells you how much I've wanted Eze at our football club. And you lot are the same people, whether you saw him at QPR, whether you saw him wherever. The man's a game changer. And I got another one. Look at the babyface killer there, man. Eze looks to be an interesting player. That was 7 years ago, people. That was when he was 20, and now he's 27. I love Eze, bro. I can't lie to you. I love Eze. I don't care about his defensive qualities and things. Of course, you need to improve that. Get the man in the team. You know, we all know his best attributes and his best qualities will come in the Odegaard role. But off the left, one, it's better than any other option we can run off the left-hand side. Two, and it annoys me because we need to get Eze and Odegaard in the side. And it looks like Eze off the flanks is going to be his angle. We have seen against West Ham when Odegaard got injured, he tried to run Rice in the six, them two either side. So there is capacities. And for me, with Mikel Arteta, it's never been the starting 11. It's never been how you start games and approach games. I just don't think throughout the course of a season, we pivot enough unless we're forced to. I don't like things like this, yeah. But football's about relationships. I feel on the right-hand side, Timber, Benjamin White, Kai, when he plays up front, pulls over there. Odegaard and Saka has been there. Of course, any team that's missing their kind of first choice players and people that are central to their system, you're not going to see fluidity in that regards, right? But I don't think we've found any suitable kind of patch-ups around that. I feel, as much as I don't want to see it, like Kai and Gyokeres on occasion, changing up the midfield, just different kind of partnerships and relationships to get us through a season. And I feel like we have to be forced to. Like it's only now that we found a way to get Eze in the side. It's only now that Miles Lewis-Skelly got minutes in midfield, probably because there wasn't no other midfielder. In terms of the trade-offs, you saw against City, man-for-man marky, like we was going man-for-man, high up the field, Magalhaes kind of leaving us exposed because of the trade-offs. Eze on left wing, the same rhetoric. I just wish these things could have happened sooner, but for me, man, build the team around Eze. Eze's our biggest game changer and match winner. Like, the man's amazing. There's actually some games he's played very well that have gone over the radar. Newcastle at home, Obviously, Newcastle away is still the best game I think we've played in the Premier League. Bayern Munich, Atletico Madrid. Bayern Munich, he obviously set up the goal. City at home, he obviously set up the goal. I mean, the man scored, you know, the 2 games against Spurs where he's got a brace and a hat-trick, so 5 in that. You know, the man's been amazing, not to mention the Leverkusen strike, the Crystal Palace strike. You know, I'm sure it's only the FA Cup, but the FA Cup strike. Obviously, against Newcastle, we got back to scoring from set pieces, and that's why we play it short. Eze's a match winner. He's got Stardust. He's got X Factor. He can be a Swiss Army knife, and you know he hasn't done it, but he can play left wing. He can play off the right. Can play in the 10. Can play centrally. Can do all of those things, and he's actually trigger happy, and he wants to shoot. And as I said, you know, for me with Mikel Arteta, there's plenty of question marks around getting silverware and justice he has to face. Because I rate him and the team, I think it's more than fair at the 4th time of asking, especially with everything that's happened, we need to be delivering people, right? We need to be doing that. But I feel as a football team, collectively, we've got a good collective bunch. Like we're 90% of the way there when it comes to football. That 10%, you know, Mikel Arteta's proactiveness in games, changing things, not running people into the ground, different pivots away. You know, these are the kind of things we're missing. And also for me, I would kind of like throw it into that. 10%. Football's always about the individuals, but we live in a day and age. It's all about systems, and it's about the collective rather than the individuals. I now think we need to find that freedom within a framework. City got that with players like Cherky, etc. PSG have that in abundance. Beyond the obvious, we know we ain't got that abundance of players, but no one can look me in my face and tell me, even in Newcastle game, we're playing a lot more direct. None of you can tell me we don't have the capacity to play a lot more direct, get a lot more out of the tools, even the limited players, because Eze is one thing. Just let him go do his thing. You have to do some defensive things, but just let him go and do his thing. I don't really necessarily rate Martinelli or Nodi Madueke. I do think Gyokeres gets scapegoated a bit, but he's an evident limited striker where you can get limitations out. That's why I actually like him, because he goes against Arteta's system. He has to find a way to make it work. Playing a bit that I know you can't always do it, but playing a bit direct for those kind of players. Sometimes we try to play direct when we've got players that are more likely to come short for the ball. You know. Like sometimes we play direct with players that want to go short, want to play the pretty game with people that want to go long. I just think there's different horses for courses, if I'm honest. And the 10% missing is the football, man. We've got a good defensive ethos, we've got a good defensive outlook, we've got good defenders, full stop. You've got Rice in midfield, the whole team puts in work. So I do think we can start gambling and indirectly leaving gaps, because we know if we leave Eze, for example, high up the field, we could get overloaded on that hand side, or there's gaps and things of that ilk. But then at the same time, you know, keeping him further up the field, he might go and lick in a goal like you've seen him do, people. And that's what I need to do, because I said it in the summer. Gyokeres ain't the same as Eze, because everyone can see his quality. Gyokeres is an evident limited player, but Gyokeres, in terms of a striker, has brought something that we haven't got and is what we don't have, and has done what he's done. He's paid to do. 18 goals in all comps, 12 in the Premier League. That's it, innit, really. I know you got to drop deep and things like that, and we know Eze's a star, man. But it's taking a while for Eze to kind of hit his heights, and we'll get onto that in a minute, people. There was nothing to suggest with our tactics that you just sign an attacker and they're going to go to the next level. Even Zubimendi, great in the first half of the season, but you signed for Arsenal Football Club and you're in a bit of a mixed bag at the moment, but we're asking if you can play a ball forward. So that has to be something with the system. And whatever I think about our attacking outlook or our attacking collective group of players, if I'm nitpicking about all of them, then that has to go to the manager, people. If I'm complete... What are you doing? Apologies, people. Go away, man. Yeah, as I was saying, that has to go with the manager. We play football. It's now about playing football. You know, FUTBOL, and Eze can do that. In fact, I'm very good at articulating my thoughts on paper, people. So this is actually for another video, but yeah, like don't ignore the Arteta not involved 2 low 2-1 system. Eze is a game changer, not because he's the whole answer, but because he represents the type of answer Arsenal have needed. A player who can make the game feel different, a player who can unlock things without everything being perfect, a player who brings personality to a team that sometimes looks like it's waiting for permission. And this is where, as I said, Arteta has to evolve, but that's for another video. Because if Arsenal want to become champions, they cannot only be structured, they have to be dangerous, they have to be expressive, they have to have players who feel free enough to decide games. And Mikel Arteta, he can be a Swiss Army knife. You have to find a way of accommodating that. And big up Noni. I'm not trying to make it about Noni, but you could see the difference. Actually, even though Gyokeres is poor pass, yeah, Why do you think that right-hand side looked a bit better when Saka's there, Odegaard's there? Football's about relationships. A 10% Bukayo Saka is better than anything that we have right now, if it's not Max Dowman. Now, Max Dowman's not going to start. I'm not trying to see Trossard and Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus and, you know, all the logical things that on the right-hand side. I'm not trying to see that. I'm not trying to hear that. If it's not Saka, it needs to be Max Dowman. Noni's fulfilled his duty as a squad player, but ultimately, I can't say I'm surprised, did it? Like, I'm not surprised with Noni because I didn't expect you to have a strong output in terms of goals. Yeah, I guess you're still young, you're 24, all those things. Between you and Mikel Arteta, figure it out. Because for me, I said what I said in the summer. I don't think Noni's as bad as people make out. He's definitely a frustrating player. His man themselves support him. He's still got an earth of potential. Potential don't mean nothing if it's not realized. And I think we already had uncertainty at this football club in the attack. Why bring in another unpolished diamond? And for me, I don't mind if, you know, you're some unknown Brazilian or you know, you've come from the academy and you're like 16, like Max Dowman. When you've played for your country, you've played for PSV, you've played for Chelsea, you've probably played 100+ career games, there's a certain level of expectation. And football, like life, is about making the right decisions. And at this moment in time, if Noni Madueke isn't going to consistently make the right decisions, then the penny, in my opinion, is never going to drop, which I hope I'm wrong. I also didn't agree with the petitions. Noni has this is the annoying thing, yeah. There's certain players in our attack that have the IQ, in my opinion, don't have the ability. So like they're overhitting, underhitting passes, running into blind alleys. You get to shooting when you need to passing when you need to shoot, all of that kind of stuff. But then equally, there's players that have the ability, not necessarily the IQ. And I do like Noni's playing style. It is a bit refreshing at Arsenal because we don't really have men that take people on and provoke havoc. And to be fair to Noni, in today's day and age, there ain't really wingers that want to take their man on consistently. Does that? But I'm not interested in that. If it's free actions to score a goal or get an assist, yeah, Noni, like Martinelli, does actually do quite well for 2 of the 3, but they never do all 3. And if we're living or dying by this, it's crazy. I know Noni's trying to do better. I know the manager's trying to do better. I'm not at London Coley knowing what you lot want to do. So 50% is with the manager. You bought him. You know, I kind of getting to the point where I hate players we sign where we talk about if Mikel can. If a sentence starts like that, insert Noni rhetoric there. Arteta, you got to figure it out. Noni, you're a good lad, good attitude. I can criticize your ability, but I like you. There's also been games you've done well. You've probably, in my opinion, Eze, I don't know, Eze against Leverkusen, you against Club Brugge. There's some contenders for goal of the season. And I know Noni's trying, but I need more. You've deputized for Saka. You've actually done well. For me, you need to be a super sub. You know, I know because of injuries, when there's injuries, super subs are going to now have to get first team football, but I'm not on it, if I'm honest. Potential only means that something if it's realized. Then for me, I know it's a small case study, but Saka looked relieved. He looked free. He looked confident. And in the last few weeks, when you listen to what Mikel Arteta is saying, it seems like, in hindsight, of course, poor form is poor form, but Saka hasn't felt comfortable in his body. You know, when you're playing football and you're scared about injuries or whatever, so you're not playing within your limitations, but there's a certain limitation you've put on your head. Saka didn't look like that was the case, in it. So for me, build the team around Saka and Eze. I don't care if Eze's playing off the left or in the midfield. He finally looks comfortable. He's doing his thing. And it took us a while. I would say it took us a while for Gyokeres to start bagging goals and Eze to get here, because now it's almost like we forget the first half of the season. Like, to go back in time, obviously Eze's sick. As I mentioned, Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, he did well. Screamer against Leverkusen. Didn't have the best of games against Athletic Club. And there was adaptation. Don't get twisted. Eze does need to get better defensively, and there's 1-2 things he needs to do, and he has shown improvement in that, and there's still a long way to go, people. But it started wavy. Well, it started wavy for me. I'm sure he got introduced for this game. Obviously, everyone remembers he came on. Arteta kind of got onto him in the press conference. He did very well against Nottingham Forest, actually, from the left-hand side, setting up Gyokeres. Very good assist for Martinelli against City. Scored a scissor kick ting against his former club, Crystal Palace. Did okay against West Ham, from what I remember, but we were still waiting for a different kind of beast to come out, really. Then he dropped the hat-trick against Spurs, which is fairy tale business. And then you fast forward, yeah, not to even mention whether we done well or not. Again, a bit like Manchester City against Aston Villa. Again, defensively, kind of switched off. And then it kind of went a bit mad. Like, he kind of was a forgotten man for 4 games, and then he's kind of come back, and then he kind of remembered himself again in the North London derby, and then again in the North London derby. And then for me, since then, bro, he's been cold, man. He's been cold. Obviously, no one was cold against Bournemouth. He was okay against City. I don't think he should have got subbed, and he was great against Newcastle. I still maintain, yeah, our best performance for me in the league. I don't care if we've won 4-1 and 2-0, and there's been 3-0 and 5-0. For me, the best collective performance for me, if you're looking at Arsenal going from being a competitive team to a winning team, it would be that Newcastle away for many reasons, people. Well, there's a commonality in that. Pope's been in, had a decision to, the ref's been given a decision to make by Pope, and it's not been given. But in terms of everything that champions do, obviously we ain't won the league, but at the time, go into a nasty ground for visiting sides like St. James's Park, where Newcastle in a difficult moment, everybody in the first 5 games is on a kind of level playing field, right? Go into a hostile environment that, we don't really do well at it, quote unquote, that didn't get the penalty, went a goal down. Numerous ref decisions went against us. And I feel the start of the game, every player individually and collectively did their jobs and they were on it. Reacted to the mistake, found a way to win. The starting players are one thing. The people that came off the bench is another. Magalhaes, done poor for the goal. Mascara gave away the corner. Magalhaes done poor, went and chipped in and got a goal. Mikel Arteta complicated the tactics that needed complication, simplified what needed simplifying. First time I looked at us that we're playing with invention, intention, purpose, and all of those things. I can't say the amount of times I've seen that in the Premier League. So, bro, I'm happy for Eze, man. I really am. I really, really am, man. Build the team around Eze and Saka for me, man. Let me know if I'm talking was or not. Smash the like button.